Hey everybody, and welcome back to Sip and Talk, just for you. Today's mission, should you choose to accept it, and, well, you kind of did by sending in these awesome articles, is figuring out how to live a little freer.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're talking less stress, more joy. The big question, can we actually achieve that legendary chill level of our furry friends, the cats and dogs? You guys sent in a killer collection of stuff, articles digging into anxiety, the art of living in the moment, what happens if AI steals all our jobs, and even some deep thoughts on finding your inner peace. So, you know, we got to unpack this.
Absolutely. And it's fascinating looking at all this. There's this common thread, right? This real human desire for a sense of ease, just a feeling of contentment. You've gathered ideas that explore different paths to get there, from dealing with the daily grind of anxiety to imagining a future where maybe that grind isn't so grindy, you know, thanks to AI.
Totally. And you know what smacked me in the face right away from the Tor Hiwo piece and those womany articles? It's how anxiety just muscles its way in and, like, blocks that feeling of freedom. They talk about getting stuck in these loops, these repetitive thought patterns and knee-jerk reactions without even really noticing we're doing it. Okay, so let's get practical. How do we actually, you know, loosen anxiety's grip and start hanging out more in the present moment like these articles are suggesting?
Well, the Womany articles offer some really useful starting points. Both that 201 and this SF7 piece highlight the power of cultivating awareness. But, and this is key, doing it without judgment. It's about noticing what's going on, your thoughts, your feelings, what you're physically sensing right now, without immediately slapping a good or bad label on it. The 7U article makes a great point, that those judgments we make, they act like filters that actually twist how we see things.
Oh, that totally clicks. It's like when you're feeling a little anxious, maybe, and then your brain jumps in with, oh no, you shouldn't be feeling this way. And then bam, you're even more anxious about being anxious. So the trick is to just observe it, like watching a cloud go by without getting all worked up about the cloud itself.
Precisely, yeah. And the 7 East article also brings up non-reactivity. So instead of instantly jumping to a reaction when an emotion pops up, we kind of hit pause and just observe it. That little bit of space, that pause, gives us the power to choose how we respond instead of just being dragged along by the initial feeling. The Hiss a Huge article echoes this too. It suggests we let our minds wander a bit, sure, but then gently nudge them back to what's happening right now.
Yeah, I like that in the Tu He's piece, the falling leaves exercise. Imagining your worries and thoughts as leaves floating down a stream. That sounds surprisingly calming, actually. Kind of nice. And it also talked about really tuning into your senses, like you're seeing, hearing, smelling everything for the very first time. Here's where it gets really interesting. It's almost like trying to get back that wide-eyed curiosity we had as kids, right?
Exactly. That beginner's mind, as the 7 article calls it, is so key. Approaching each moment with that sense of openness and curiosity, letting go of all our preconceived notions about how things should be. The Tu He's article also nails it by pointing out how often we're stuck, like rehashing past mistakes or stressing about future what-ifs, and that just completely steals us from the present moment. It's about recognizing those thoughts for what they are, just thoughts, you know, not necessarily reality itself.
And the 72 has also mentioned letting go, right? Letting go of those rigid ideas we have and being open to things changing. And this idea of acceptance. Just acknowledging things as they are right now, even if it's not our ideal situation. So instead of fighting the anxiety, we sort of just acknowledge it's there. Like, oh, hey, anxiety, you're here again, like a slightly annoying neighbor.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah. Acceptance allows us to see things with more clarity and then respond in a way that's actually helpful, rather than just adding fuel to the fire. The excerpts really back this up. They basically say, we have the power to choose how we perceive things. And that true inner peace comes from focusing on a single goal and practicing forgiveness, which really at its core is about letting go of the fear and judgment that hold us back.
Okay, so we're starting to untangle the anxiety knot a bit. That makes sense. But how do all these pieces fit together into actually living more freely, you know, day to day? The 7 talks about these attitudes of mindfulness, things like trusting your gut feelings, being patient with how life unfolds, and non-striving, which sounds interesting. It's about tuning into yourself instead of constantly pushing for some external goal. So how do we bring these attitudes into our real lives? What does that even look like?
Well, if we zoom out a bit, these attitudes really suggest a fundamental shift in how we relate to ourselves and the world around us. Trusting your intuition, like you mentioned, is about paying attention to those subtle signals your body and your gut send you. Sometimes they know things, right? Patience acknowledges that, well, a lot of things in life just take time, and fighting that natural rhythm, that just creates unnecessary stress. That non-striving attitude is particularly interesting. It's about finding a sense of contentment now, in the present moment, rather than always chasing after some future version of happiness that might never arrive. The excerpts tie into this beautifully, suggesting that our core reality is love and inner peace, and that constantly seeking external validation based on old fears can keep us stuck in a cycle of dissatisfaction.
It's almost like that Oscar articles analogy, the one with the jar or the big rocks. We have to figure out what's truly important, our big rocks, and make sure those go into our lice jar first. Before all the little pebbles and sand, the less important stuff, just fill it all up. The article even quotes Richard Schell saying that long-term success isn't just about fleeting achievements. It comes from things like financial security, sure, but also respect, making a positive impact, and genuine friendships, the real stuff.
Precisely. And the Coolster Rap piece gives us another angle on this. It suggests that true freedom isn't just about having a ton of money in the bank, but about having that inner state of contentment, being okay inside. It talks about earning money in a way that feels right, that aligns with your values, contributing to the economy maybe, and actually finding happiness in that process. When our minds are at ease, we're much less likely to be tossed around by external ups and downs, you know.
Sip&Talk Sunny, recording the podcast every single day is definitely tiring. It's a lot of work, but it's also really fulfilling. It sounds like finding that sweet spot, that balance between putting in the effort and actually enjoying what you're doing is a big part of living freely, right? The Youytube article really hammers this home, the importance of creating breathing room, managing your workload effectively, and making your well-being a priority right alongside your work. It's not about being lazy. It's about finding a way to engage with life that you can actually sustain and enjoy long-term.
Absolutely. And that article offers some very concrete steps we can take, like having open conversations about workload, really prioritizing tasks instead of just reacting to whatever pops up, sharpening our time management skills maybe, and building those healthy habits that support our overall well-being. Sleep, exercise, the basics. It really underscores that living freely isn't just a passive state we fall into. It often requires us to make conscious efforts and adjustments, both to our routines and how we think about things.
Okay, which brings us to the real kind of sci-fi question here, sparked by that AI article. If artificial intelligence takes over most of the jobs out there, could we all just kick back? Could we live the good life, be as happy as a clam? Or, well, as happy as our cats and dogs seem to be. The article lays out these two very different scenarios, doesn't it? The optimistic one where humans are finally freed up to pursue their passions, maybe with some kind of universal basic income safety net, and the more cautious one where we might lose our sense of purpose and those crucial social connections if work as we know it just vanishes. So what are your big thoughts on this potential future? It's kind of wild to think about.
Oh, it's definitely wild. And this is where it gets really interesting, maybe even a little unsettling. The AI article dives into some really profound questions about what it means to be human and what our societal values are actually built on. While the idea of all that leisure time, being able to dive into personal interests, sounds incredibly appealing on the surface, the concerns raised about potentially losing our sense of meaning, our social identity, those are really significant. As the article points out, work, for many people, provides way more than just a paycheck. It's often deeply intertwined with how we see ourselves, our value in the world. The Ahorhu section even raises the question of whether humans could truly handle that much freedom without falling into a sense of, well, nihilism or just feeling empty, lost.
Yeah, and that article mentioned those basic income experiments, right? Places like Ireland and the U.S. It's so interesting that while people definitely use the money for basic necessities, they reported feeling less anxious day to day, which is good. It didn't automatically translate into long-term financial stability or significant improvements in their overall health outcomes. So it seems like just having our basic needs met might not be the complete recipe for happiness and a strong sense of purpose. There's something missing, maybe.
That's a crucial insight. Yeah, exactly. The AI article also touches on this potential dehumanization crisis in our relationships if AI starts automating a lot of human interaction, which loops back to the importance of social connection for our well-being, something we often see in the strong bonds we have with our pets, ironically. The Utsati section really makes you think when it asks whether just mimicking the seemingly carefree existence of cats and dogs is true progress for us, or if it's actually a step backward for humans who seem to have these much more complex needs for meaning, for contribution, for feeling like we're making a difference. And the Utsati section brings in those classic thinkers, quoting Marx on how labor is fundamental to human nature and Hannah Arendt's distinction between labor, just sustaining life, and work, creating something lasting. It highlights that deep-seated human need to create.
It really sounds like the AI article is hinting that even in a future where we don't have traditional jobs, we'd still need to figure something out. We need to figure out how to define our worth and find those things that give our lives meaning. Maybe it wouldn't be work as we know it now, but it would have to be something, right? Like creative pursuits maybe, or volunteering in the community, or lifelong learning. Who knows?
Exactly. And that USA section also brings up how crucial it will be for education to adapt to this potential shift, focusing on nurturing skills that will be relevant in whatever new social structure emerges, and helping people navigate the potential psychological challenges that could come with the loss of traditional employment. It's a huge adjustment. It really makes you wonder, can we truly be content and free in the way we imagine our pets are? Or do our human needs for purpose, for connection, for contribution run much, much deeper than that? The excerpts from Swalny also touch on this beautifully, the profound importance of connection and finding meaning, especially when facing the end of life. The author's journey after his father's passing really shows how true freedom often comes from understanding ourselves and our relationships with others, not just from external circumstances. Well, ultimately, it seems like living freely isn't really about escaping all the challenges or just becoming completely passive like a contented house cat. It's more about cultivating that inner space, that awareness, acceptance, and non-judgment right here in the present moment. It's about getting really clear on what truly matters to you, identifying your big rocks, and then intentionally aligning your life around those priorities. And when we think about these huge societal shifts on the horizon, like the rise of AI, it's so important to consider not just the potential for more leisure time, which sounds nice, but also this fundamental human needs we have for purpose, for connection, for feeling like we're contributing something meaningful to the world. So maybe here's a thought to chew on. What kind of freedom truly resonates with you? What does that look like for you personally? And maybe, just maybe, what small step could you take today or this week to move just a little bit closer to that feeling?
Ooh, that's such a great question to leave us with. A really good one. Thanks so much for diving deep with us today. This was fascinating. And hey, speaking of fun stuff, if you're looking for more thought-provoking and entertaining content, you should definitely go check out our old friend Micky's YouTube channel. It's called Mickyytolife, M-I-C-K-Y to life. He's always got some good stuff cooking over there, always interesting. So yeah, check him out. Until our next deep dive, keep exploring those big questions.
If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to our channel and leave us a review. We love hearing from you. Peace out, everyone. Until next time.